Ha ha! Now she's done it. Welcome to our January UPCA webinar. Very excited for the turnout. I just have a few announcements before I turn the time over to our Utah Prevention Day Planning Committee for some announcements about that, and then to Susanna Burt, who is our speaker today. So I wanted to thank those of you that volunteered to serve in our vacant positions on the UPCA Executive Board. We'll be sending out an email to introduce you and to let you all vote on our new secretary and funding chair. So look for that email. And speaking of emails, I did try to send out some emails this morning from our UPCA account and had many rejected and blocked. I'm not sure if it's just a fluke thing, but if for some reason you're not getting emails from the UPCA, please reach out and let us know or enter your information into the chat and I'll do a little research. It seemed like it was just
let me change the volume. This was really loud.
but it seemed like it was just .gov this morning, but then we did have some others come back too. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm gonna reach out to Google. That makes it sound really simple. Like I'm just gonna get Google on the phone and we'll figure this out. Hopefully it's just a fluke thing, but we'll figure it out regardless. If you're not getting emails, I think I sent 2 this morning. If you didn't get them, please let us know and we'll get that fixed. I also wanted to mention that a few months ago, and some of you may know this, a few months ago, Susanna Burt and I applied to be a part of the Alcohol Policy Academy, which is a national academy. I think they accepted about 14 coalitions to be part of this. And what you do is you work with a coach, someone that's specialized in alcohol policy, to help you pass a policy in your community or for our project in your state. And Susanna and I were accepted as members of the Utah Prevention Coalition Association. And so we have started that process. And the policy that we have decided to work on is to raise the price of beer to inflation, the excess tax that's associated with that, which is a lofty goal. And those of you guys that have been in prevention for a while, remember that this is something that folks in prevention have been working on for years and years. But Susanna and I have a year to work on this to really raise the readiness for this policy and to work with other people in the state. And so hopefully we'll see that through. Right now, we're thinking about asking for a dime a drink and maybe negotiating it down to a nickel. Who knows what this will look like in a year, but I just wanted to give the coalition a heads up. You might start seeing stuff about it. And we do have a question. It's very random, and I know this is a weird ask, but one of our assignments for the Policy Academy is to reach out to someone on the Utah Tax Commission. And I wondered if anybody on the coalition already has an existing relationship with somebody that's part of the Tax Commission that could give us an introduction. If not, we can reach out, but I thought it wouldn't hurt to ask to see if somebody already knows someone. So if you do, please feel free to enter your information into the chat, and Susanna and I would love the help getting that introduction. So I think that's it. Without further ado, I'll turn the time over to the Utah Prevention Capitol Hill Day Planning Committee for some announcements about that event.
Who's speaking on it? Am I?
I thought it was Alin. Alin, are you here?
I do have stuff in my presentation for it.
Okay.
But I don't have the link for the registration yet. That's it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll check on later and see if Alin was able to log on and give us that information. If not, Susanna has information and we'll send information out through an email, but feel free to hang on to the end of the presentation if you have any questions for us. All right, well, without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Susanna Burt. Thank you so much, Susanna, for presenting today.
Awesome. Okay, first thing, and I'm gonna look to Heidi and to Kendra because I can see your pictures. How is my sound? I'm working from home. Good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, all right. Okay, what do we have up here? Okay, thanks, Jason. All right, so first of all, it's only the second day of the session, and I'm already like, my phone is already dead. So welcome. I used to call this like the crazy 45 days. We're in it. And a lot of the work we do happens before the next 45 days. But now that we're in it, it's going to be fast and we're going to have to respond as quick as we possibly can. And I want to remind everyone as we go through this, if you have questions, ask me. We do have certain boundaries we need to maintain as professionals and as constituents. So further ado, here's what we're going to go over today. It's going to be fast. We have a lot of stuff already on the thing. If you have questions, do put something in the chat. I can see my little chat bar right now, or unmute if I'm not getting to it fast enough and just speak out to me. Okay, we're going to go over some of our priority bills. We're going to talk about each bill. I've noted who is the legislator that you need to speak with. Then also different ways that we can interact with these legislators or our leadership. We have new things for testifying and communicating, building our relationships. Lynn, do you want to speak up then? Sorry, I just saw your chat. Because I have a little bit of something, obviously here's my February 14th, but if you have something you want to add, I can just reinforce.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. We are just here to gain from your wisdom, Susanna the Great. So we'll just.
We're working on it. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So if I have missed something, Elaine, if you're still on by the time I get to it, pop in and say anything we need to add, all right? Okay. So we're going to talk about how to build relationships outside of our legislative session and what to do on the 14th and then after March 1st. Okay. All right. So here is the we're going right into it. Okay. We have today, that's why it's highlighted. Today at 2 p.m., the House Education Committee is going to be hearing a new bill, and it's the student survey amendments. And the first draft, so the original draft of the bill, we had some concerns, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, urgent. What it is now that they've changed some of the language, they're removing any references to the Student Health and Risk Prevention Survey. What does that mean? Is it a big deal? It can be. Right now, again, they're just basically like pulling back the influence or the ability to use SHARP in different ways. So the youth electronic, so down here where it says YEMOP, Y-E-M-O-P, that's the Youth Electronic Cigarettes, Marijuana, and Other Drug Prevention Program that receives the money from the e-cigarette tax or e-tax. And that money is going towards communities. All the health departments should be receiving funding, and then they roll it out. And part of the requirement for reporting is that they have to use the risk and protective factors that are identified in the Student Health and Risk Prevention Survey. When we start taking that language out, it means that we're losing some of that science and research. That's one of the concerns. So if you say, well, we're just going to be any risk and protective factor or protective factor, and it doesn't have backup to it or doesn't have research to it, then again, we start getting away from those evidence-based strategies that we know to be effective. Okay. Is that Alpine School District, Jamie? I'm assuming Alpine. Okay.
No, there's a club, there's some sandwiches. I don't know if you want to.
I'm good.
I would not have that on. Okay. Find the.
Trudy, is that you talking?
Oh,
I just making sure, like, are you commenting? I was a little confused. Okay. So yes, with Alpine is down in Utah County. There are a lot of districts that are concerned and are waiting on this. They've pulled back. When we lose the information, when you lose that information, you start having you weaken our ability to plan effectively. That's the concern. We already make sure that it's de-identified data. We already make sure that it's been tested and validated. We already make sure that there is parental consent, active parental consent. You have to get that before you can give the survey. Those are all things that SHARP does. There are other surveys that go on in the schools that they're trying to basically weed out. we want to be very cautious and judicious about what we're saying, yeah, we're okay with going, and what we want to keep in. Again, something that could be discussed at a local level of what's appropriate for our community and our youth. But we want to make sure, the other big thing is that at the bottom there, they want us to identify all people and entities that will potentially use the data in the future. I don't know about you, but I don't have a crystal ball. And so I don't know who's going to use it, even if it is. I know that I spoke with someone at the state this morning. They believe it to be the raw data. However, even with the raw data, if someone is asking as a student to look at the data, and when I say raw, they just still de-identified, can't tell which student wrote what, but it does allow them to go dig into the numbers a little bit more. But we want to use this data to help us make more educated decisions on what our communities needs. In the bill itself, it does outline the concerns of topics and understand that. Questions? Make sure any other comments in here. So today, you can participate by going on to LE, and ID, will you put this in there? le.utah.gov. And if I was actually here, you know what I can do? Here's what I can do right now. Copy. Okay, can I put this in here? Here, that will take you right to that committee page. There you go. So that's for this afternoon. Gosh, I love having multiple screens. I forgot how wonderful it is. Okay, back to my thing here. So that way you can get on there and you can listen. In the meanwhile, on that link, you can see the different representatives that are on that committee. If you happen to live in that area, you can actually
the prevention block
educate them on
grant.
certain things. That's totally appropriate. We're not asking them to vote a certain way.
Yeah,
but you
that's
can share
because
concerns.
they're pulling the funding from several different pockets of money. So like various LEAs were given different titles. Yep.
Sierra, are you talking to the entire group, or are you talking to us or someone separately? Thank you. Just checking, because guess what? You all may have opinions and things to share, and I'm totally open to that. Okay. Going down to another priority bill that we are supporting is House Bill 106, and that's electronic cigarettes. Leon, did you have a question? Okay. House Bill 106, that is a priority support. And what it is that we were hoping to have this bill put into law that the e-juice only has a maximum amount of 3% of nicotine levels. Right now it's up to 5%. And there are opportunities, and we'll talk about those later, to testify for this bill. Art Brown is a point person if you'd like to speak to that, and you get permission from either your agency or you want to do it on your own time. So there is the possibility of adding language to restrict flavors. And if we restrict flavors, that actually makes a huge difference in what is available in those retail establishments. So that will make a big difference. Elaine, do you want to talk for a second? We have a half day and a child. I'm going to text her real quick. So if there's something real quick. Sorry. And I have snow. I have like 10 inches of snow on my driveway. So here we go.
Actually, Susanna, just this morning when Grant sent that to me was the first I'd heard anything about it. So I'm really not very versed on what's going on with everything.
Okay.
But just that there was a concern, and then you popped on and I thought, oh, great, we're going to learn from the best today. UPCA, so, you know.
Well, I'm hoping that my child just responds in text and not call. Okay. So with this, you have an opportunity again to share with your elected officials whether you support it. And we're all not to vote a certain way, but saying, hey, this is a really great bill. Here's why it's great. Okay. Ouch. All right, another priority bill is House Bill 128. the tobacco cessation amendments. I had a clarification on this. It is a priority support with Representative Thomas Peterson. This is allowing our minors in the state who are currently using tobacco of any way, so vaping, the packets, smoking combustible cigarettes. This allows them to go through a way to quit and receive coaching for to help them stop smoking cigarettes or any other tobacco product. And what that means is that they are not going to get a patch or tobacco or nicotine gum. It is coaching through steps of basically the going from the contemplation to from pre-contemplation to contemplation to success. So that's what this is. We did choose to priority support this with Utah Prevention Advisory Council. And that's, any questions on that one? Okay. This is one we held on. There is House Bill 52, which is industrial hemp amendments. Representative Jen Daly Provo and Senator Evan Vickers have introduced this bill. I went through it this weekend to really understand more about it. A lot of the definitions happen to be matching the federal level of THC. So it allows, I don't know if you know, hemp is the plant, obviously, and it's not supposed to have any more than a certain percentage of the THC in any of the products. The concerns remain for a lot of us of the enforcement, who's going to be testing for that. There is stuff that they want the local health departments to be checking these providers and checking the juice or the products. And there was kind of like this limbo in what I read this week, and I have not read today because I've been focused on the survey bill. Kind of what that looks like. There are fines. It's a pretty hefty fine for the first time, which I'm fine with, but is it a person or a business? And it's a $5,000 fine. Again, we've asked questions, we're putting it out, we're waiting to hear back from Representative Jen Daly Provost and Senator Vickers. But if you live in the area, you are welcome to ask questions and say, can you explain a little bit more? We always encourage that, building those relationships. This is not anything with medical cannabis, just so we're clear. This is the CBD oils that you see at the store, or the gas stations, and allowing it to be sold across state lines. So this one is a very simple one. If you see it, it's House Bill 33. It's allowing certain forms to be submitted electronically. We chose to support this. House Bill 38, psychotropic medication. It's an oversight, and it had to deal with those in foster care or those that were involved with the state with Division of Child and Family Services. It's moving that to the Division of Integrated Healthcare and the certain oversight and a reimbursement rate. At this point in time, we continue to support it. We are looking for a little bit more information because there was a sunset date. So that's something we're looking at still. There were a group of bills released from the school safety work group in the state legislature. So House Bill 14, House Bill 84, and House Bill 119 are those bills. The first two bills are being sponsored by Representative Ryan Wilcox. The first one, House Bill 14, I had some concerns with. I went through and read it again. It allows still the districts to make some decisions, which is currently in place. It enhances a little bit more, and they want them to report things back. But the big change is that if a child or a student creates a bomb threat, or anyone that creates a bomb threat to the school, and they are found, it is up to a second-degree felony charge, which is a pretty hefty response. So that's the first thing to note. 84, however, is putting places at the schools, basically lock boxes for firearms. And I believe, and if someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, it also creates a county level like air marshal, so like a school safety marshal. Think of like someone who flies on the plane, you don't know who that person is that it's carrying. But they want to do that for the schools. So someone that's carrying a weapon, highly trained, they aren't just like me, because you don't want me holding a firearm at a school. I am not the person for you. Not because I don't like guns, but because I am not trained. But they also included de-escalation training, which I really, really liked. There are some concerns with House Bill 84 in the sense of what about those who have mental health concerns? We know that there's research showing that those persons with mental health issues or that are struggling may have a higher incident of violent interaction with those with firearms. So like we know that those who are wanting to be harmed because they feel frustrated, or a person who doesn't understand how to de-escalate or work with someone with certain needs, it could be an issue how they react to that person. So that's kind of some things that we're asking right now. Again, there's some great things about this. Their whole intent is to create a healthier and safer school, and this is what they're hoping to do. Now, and I was leaving notes, so that SADF means nothing. I was trying to make sure I had an extra little bullet in case I needed to change. House Bill 119 is sponsored by Representative Tim Jimenez. And in this one, I do have some concerns, again, because it's that creating the Educator Protector Program. We want a little bit more information of how they're being trained, what's the incentive, and how, again, will that play into House Bill 14 or 84? So those are just things to be aware of as you're going through these bills. Questions on school safety bills? I told you I'm going to try and fly through this as fast as possible. This is another one from Representative Ryan Wilcox. It's House Bill 86. Essentially, things that if like going back to House Bill 114 or 14, not 114, 14, when a student or a school has an expulsion, for what reason? My husband mentioned there's a special, like if you work the schools, maybe STAG, if that's the right system where they collect information, maybe, I don't know. Where they submit that information to a public safety work group. Okay, so it's going to public safety and I think the state board. There were two groups that it was supposed to go to. And then the AATC, that is the Alcohol Abuse Tracking Committee report. It currently is on the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health's website under reports. It's very useful in what you're doing, but instead of just sending it to the legislature or to the Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice, CCJJ, they're having it go to specifically the law enforcement and public safety committees to review. So that is what that one's doing. Questions? Okay. This one is Office of Families. It's an existing office. It was from the governor's office at one point, and they're moving it over to reside within the Department of Health and Human Services. It's one of many bills that is moving offices into that. They are moving also USAVE, the parent of UPAC, so the Utah Prevention Advisory Committee Council, not this UPCA, very different, but they're moving that over to the health department potentially, or Health and Human Services. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm clear. So this is the last bill I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on it. So everyone take a deep breath. Every year there is an alcohol bill. What they are trying to do is to create one bill to allow to kind of be the bill of all bills for alcohol. They used to call it an omnibus bill, but I just found out about 30 minutes ago that they don't call it that anymore. So we're not calling it that. But all the bills related to alcohol are supposed to come through Jefferson Burton, Karen Peterson, and Senator Jerry Stevenson. And those three are the ones that are kind of the gatekeepers. They have worked over the last year to develop a bill. They have not released this bill yet. However, as a group in the community, we can still continue to advocate for things we want and things we don't want. So as you notice, I put mobility. One of the things that have been discussed, not necessarily in the bill, but over the years, that there are certain establishments that want to increase the mobility within their entity. We've talked about it before. There are concerns with this by allowing the portability, meaning walking around an establishment with an alcoholic beverage. It changes what we already have in place. We currently have distinct definitions of premise. So whether it's a bar, a tavern, a resort, a banquet hall, a hotel bar, all of that is a very distinct and very specific premise description. By changing the mobility within any of those, it eliminates the whole definition of an on-premise and having those different licenses. So that's the issue that's at hand for that one. Those are things you can, again, educate your own representatives or legislators to do. 2 seconds. Until 1. Okay. Then there's proximity. We've had years where we've gone through this, and I'm going to use the example. We have, oh gosh, how many years ago was it? It was 2017. If anyone remembers in the chat, those of you who've been around as long as I have, the year that we changed some of the definition. It was the year with the Zion Curtain discussion. It was delightful. But the idea was that we had specific definitions again of proximity. So we went from 1,000 feet to 600 feet, but we said we weren't going to take any variances. Now we have these wonderful environments where you have businesses and parks or green spaces along with other establishments where people like to partake or imbibe. The concern is still that they're eroding again on those proximities. We want to keep safe spaces for our families and for our youth to go that are not influenced by alcohol. That's the key point. So when we start looking at wanting to change any of the proximities or the laws there, I swear, my sweet, sweet children. We want to make sure that stays as is. We don't want to erode on that, because this is another way that people are trying to kind of peel back the positive protective factors we have in these policies. Okay. We also don't want to see a change in the number of bar licenses. We have some great data around on density and what that means for our communities. Those are things that you can cite and share, but we don't want an increase in the number of bars or in the numbers of licenses in our communities. Okay. And the last one is that we're hoping for a tax. When we start looking at an excise tax, it isn't necessarily something that impacts as many people as you think. I love this line, and Heidi and I learned it yesterday. The majority of our voters do not drink. So this isn't looking at trying to say everyone needs to do this. It's a small number. Let me make sure. And we have a hope to make sure that there's, again, those protective factors in place. As I'm responding quickly to Julie, yes, Senator Plum's bill, we are working with her to see if she's looking to keep it or save it. And we're going to see where it goes. Questions so far? All right. As soon as I know when this bill is released, we will send it out. YouSave, which is right now getting support from Elizabeth Kelch. She sends it to us and we can share that with you so you can see what's available and what's going on. Okay. If you are asked to testify or you are considered testifying, which some of you may, and again, some of these they're asking, when I asked some people what would be the best way to support you, they actually said, come to the Capitol and do this. So if you have the ability, and I was supposed to be at the Capitol, but again, I have 10 inches of snow on my driveway. And I tried getting to the freeway and it took me too long to get to the freeway. But we can testify if you have permission from your agency, or you can take time off from work. And again, we are educating. We are not telling them one way to vote. We want to make sure that we can engage other people and just say, hey, this is something where you're concerned about. Here's what we are, here are our issues, but we are not saying, I want you to vote this way. Okay, that's what we do as coalitions. Most of us are federally funded. We do not want to lose that federal funding because we cannot lobby, and there's that fine line between advocating and lobbying. Okay, questions on testifying? Okay. All right. We also can do things like emailing, calling. Okay. Please always remember to identify who you are, where you reside. Yes, Lisa.
So on the testifying, I heard that there was a way to remote testify.
It depends. You do need to get on a list and be given permission so that like if you want to reach out to, let's say you have permission from your agency, you can reach out to people like Art Brown or those who've asked you to testify, and you send them your information and they will connect you and do all of that. But you have to do that ahead of time. It's not like you can just show up and like do that. You always want to be vetted, and they want to make sure that you are the people that are speaking to it. Okay. Great question though. All right, emailing, calling, please be cordial. You don't need to be vicious or cruel or any name calling. You want to be very clear. You want to state facts or research. You're looking to educate. You can make it personal, like why you're concerned about this. It does help if you have a personal, like, this is what happens in our area, but you do not tell them how to vote. And do thank them for spending the time and reading the email or serving our areas. Even if you do not agree with anything or with how they vote, they're still taking their time to serve 45 days in the Capitol, and they have a lot coming at them. Okay. Questions? Okay. February 14th. Capitol Hill Day, that is the Utah State Capitol Hill Day. That's where we are encouraging people to come. There is a breakfast that will be at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. at the Rotunda at the Capitol. Right now, the registration is going through the local substance abuse authorities. So that would be like Weber Human Services, Southwest Behavioral, it would be Wasatch County Family Services. I can't remember if that's the right one. Those are examples. Only right now, they're going to have 15 per LSAA. What does that mean? That means that you go through people like the prevention coordinator to get registered. And then if there are any open spots, those will be released as a first come, first serve basis after February 1st. Okay. Let's say you can't make 7 a.m. Please come down anyway on that day, and you can still meet with your legislator by requesting a meeting with them. You can set that up ahead of time or that day where you can go put in a slip. We're going to work on having a one-page document so that anyone who's there, we're going to have kind of a shared message related to tobacco and alcohol and what we're hoping to see done in our communities. Questions or additional information, Ellen, on Capitol Hill Day?
I've got a question for you, students. In terms of, so two sides, in terms of attendance, are you still trying to focus on getting youth voices there?
I would say if you can get youth voices there, that helps the message be heard in a different way, because most of us are paid employees of things. So especially, so I'll use you as an example, Maddie. If you have Julie and a youth, I think that would be a really great group to bring, because neither one of them are paid. So we want more of that community voice. That doesn't mean that we aren't the experts, because we can be the experts, but we want to, again, educate and make sure people have the opportunity to hear those it's going to impact the most. And the youth are the ones it's going to impact a lot of. And hearing from them, they tend to listen a little bit more. So that's the hope. Yes, we still hope, and we are focusing more. Elaine, if you have comments, you just speak right up, all you want. I missed the last 2 meetings.
Well, as the UPCA, do we have the invites that Jill put together through the UPCA? Have we done that?
Yes, those went out to Taylor. Taylor sent them out to the UPCA email blast. So everyone should have seen a little flyer that was talking about Valentine's Day, and I'm totally blanking on what we called it because we had a cute little name for it. Anyway, Jill Parker from the Utah Local Health Department Association actually created a something to share.
Yeah, something like you are the heart of, in Utah, the heart of prevention or whatever, so.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you for that information. I do have one more question, if it's all right. On this, is there, I guess, any united front on being able, for contacting legislators, right? There might be people that overlap some of the legislators that we're serving, especially in the Senate. And so, is there any concerted effort on being able to coordinate with folks about who's inviting who? Because also too, I don't want to overstep and invite Ryan Wilcox a million times if somebody else has already invited him.
Right.
But it could be advantageous to let him know that we're coming and that we'll have some perspectives to encourage him to come. So I'm kind of just looking for some guidance on how you're advising coalitions to go about scheduling, and if we should do that individually or if we should have one particular individual lead it out and then let us know who's coming. Is there seating assignments? What are we doing here?
Great questions. I do know we have a list started of who serves where. Alin, in the last 2 meetings, have you discussed any process or procedure that we want to have in ensuring that we're reaching out and not duplicating?
Yeah, we actually just talked about that a couple of days ago, and Logan said that he was going to, we have that form that Peter put together. And so Logan is going to take a look at that, and we're going to revisit that next time to make sure that that is the case. So I don't know if they wanted to, when you actually invited someone, he was going to look at that and put it together, and I haven't heard. So I can follow up with him on that and let you guys know about it. But there is a process hopefully started to take care of that.
Right. Great questions, Maddie. Thank you so much. It's wonderful.
Hi, Mary.
Okay, again, you don't have to come to the breakfast, as getting here at 7 a.m. is a big deal. I just found out. For those of you in Bear River area, because I know Scott Sandoval, and I saw him on one of the committee meetings this morning, and I'm friends with his daughter, and I'm like, hey, saw your dad this morning. How is he getting there so early? And she goes, they stay at Little America for the entire session. So that's just something to keep in mind. But again, you don't have to be there for breakfast if you're not able to. We still encourage you to come in there, and you can sit in on committee meetings. And what I've heard time and time again, being at the Capitol is different than just being remote. And Lisa, I know because you live in King County, it's a little bit farther away for you to get here, but there are things and advantages for being here at the Capitol and engaging with our legislators throughout the day. And they like seeing that, especially those that are not along the Wasatch Front.
I
So,
haven't had the opportunity yet, so I'm hoping I can make it in person.
well,
fingers
we welcome you if you can. So, okay, next thing. What to do after March 1st? Guess what? I already have it on my calendar. March 1st is the last day of the legislative session. And I am going to be counting down the days after that because then I get to go to Disneyland and I will be very much a happy person because it's going to be crazy. But there's some great ideas that a lot of our community coalitions have already done and implemented. Send cookies or thank you. Have your youth go up and meet with them outside of the legislative session, okay? When you start building a relationship with them, then you can see and influence the bills that they sponsor. Perhaps they, like, I'm gonna use Ryan Wilcox, he's in my area. I know that he's been engaged and invited to some of the legislative dinners that our coalition has had. He also has said, hey, anything with school safety, anything with law enforcement, that's where I really, really have, focus right now. Guess what? That then gives our youth and our coalitions ideas of what to say. Hey, here's some great ideas that we'd love to see, okay? I had, back in the day, anyone in Utah County, long time ago, we had Representative Brad Daw actually put forth 7 different bills related to prescription medication, all that came from what is now the Utah Valley Drug Prevention Coalition. I think that's what it's called now. It used to be called SMART. But they worked on that. So if you have a policy, write the language. And somebody's gonna tell me what I got it right. Okay, good, thanks, Mikhail. But those are the things, like if you write something up, and Julie Anderson has actually helped influence some policy around the state. We have Betty Sawyer at Project Success. Betty Sawyer is one of the main reasons we have Juneteenth celebrating, because she worked with legislators to create the bill and the language that established it as a holiday. So invite them, work with them, share ideas with them. We don't want the only time we ever engage with them between the day after Martin Luther King Day and the end of the session. That should not be the only time they hear from you. We want to build those relationships throughout the year. All right. Questions? Okay. All right. I'm trying to get this stupid poll. It's in a Google form so that people can read it, and I keep changing the access and it's still not working. So I'll be sending that out through the email blast. But if you and your coalition are going, or any members are going to CADCA Forum the end of this month, I am also the person that is pulling together the Tuesday night meeting, which I believe is Tuesday the 30th. I think that's the right date. 30th or 30th? Okay, 30th. Okay, thanks, Maddie. I wanted to see what you guys are looking at and what you need, and I want to prepare you before we get there. So instead of waiting till that night to have a discussion, if you're going, I want to help give you some skills to prepare you for the meetings with your congressional members. So in the meanwhile, look and see what they've already done. Talk with your coalition of what you feel you need, and have a one-pager. So there's something one page to leave with your congressional member at that time, okay? All right. Then there's a P in that lesson. Proper performance, proper preparation. Preparation prevents poor. Did I, what's my missing P? Did I miss a P? Who wrote that? I'm sorry. Thank you. But we're going to get you set. So I'm going to show you 2 slides that I snagged a screenshot of during my training yesterday. So please note they are screenshots. So this is what the agenda is for that night. If you're going to CADCA, if you're not going to CADCA, tune out for 2 minutes. Okay. Again, CADCA, I'm working on it community-based, advocacy-driven advocacy focused, data-driven coalition building association. I'm working on it because they changed the name of it. My sweet, sweet neighbor is out shoveling my driveway. So sweet of him. Okay. This is what they're hoping to see us write and advocate for or talk to our persons about. Here are some options. These are all things that they're encouraging us to chat about with our congressional members. So I will be working on some of these things so that we have a one-pager. I will be producing that with CADCA and with some of the coalitions and the feedback I get from you all. They keep telling me things are live. It's not live. I already checked 20 times and they keep not sending it in. But I'm going to have the, what did Leanne call it? It was, you called it, what was it called, Leanne? The Capitol Hill packet. I think that's what it was. And I'm going to make sure we have printed copies beforehand because they were doing everything digital. So I'm going to have printed copies that I'm going to bring with me so that you have that either digitally ahead of time, but also things that you can take with you that night and that day. So hopefully I nailed what that was called. All right. Here are that's my personal cell phone. So you feel free to not spam me, but if you need to reach me and have questions, I most likely will respond very quickly. And that's my email. I welcome any comments or questions. I appreciated some of the emails that we got back today. And I'm going to stop sharing in just a second. But now is a great time for any additional questions. And I am so glad I talked as fast as I did. Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Bye, San Juan. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. Whew. And let's just know, like, there's gonna be so much more. If there is a better way to communicate with you via instead of email, or should we use the Facebook, let us know, drop something in the chat right now, so that we can make sure that we're giving you the information you need to be successful in helping us build positive prevention policy. Okay. I'm around, and today I will be 2 o'clock. I'm actually going to go rescue a child now. And at 2 o'clock, I'll be on that House committee. And again, if you live in that area or you live in any of the districts of those representatives, feel free to contact them with any questions or thoughts. So, okay, Heidi, that was it for policy.
That was awesome. Wasn't that awesome, you guys? Yeah, look. It's look, all these people love you. That was so good. I always learn so much from you. Thank you so much for presenting, sharing all that information with us. We did record it. I did remember. So I'll be sending that out. And if anybody has any questions, of course, we'll include Susanna's contact information. And if there's anything that the UPCA can do to support you or your coalitions, not only throughout the legislative session, but throughout the year, I mean, we'll already start thinking about next year as soon as the session is over. So if there's anything that you think of that we could do to help support you, please let us know. That's our role and we want to do it. So last chance. Any questions? Awesome.
I have a thought. Can I say, Heidi? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
please.
I just had like a thought to share that I was thinking about. It would be super cool if anybody has like a recording of some advocacy versus lobbying, even if it's just like a recorded Zoom meeting, something. A lot of times, like I've done just general like little trainings with people and whatnot on my side, but it would be really cool. I think all coalition coordinators maybe can relate to this idea of that, like, I don't always love being the only one who talks. And I think people want to listen to somebody that's like not me sometimes. And so it would be cool if there was like little resources, or if somebody's found a really good video on YouTube, or like just like a slide deck, if there's something that we could all concertedly have the same page on.
Yeah, I'll get on that. Okay.
I think we might have something in the drive, a presentation by Robe by Rob, or Logan.
Okay, Rob, I'm assuming she was saying Rob.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and just like helping people know where that's at, right? Like having people kind of help people direct to that and say, hey, this is where you can find it. And it could be something that would be cool to send out to coalition members in preparation for some of these upcoming meetings at CADCA and at Capitol Hill. So
Yeah, great idea.
That's great. I like that.
Anyone else? Oh, yeah, Lisa.
Just real quick, I heard on the news last night, they were interviewing different legislators, and one of them said that she hates it when she starts reading emails from people and they all sound like they came from the same template.
Yeah, not
she's-
personalizing it. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's one of the things when we say make it personal, that's part of it. Don't just cut and paste. There might be things where we do want to cite the data or the research, totally appropriate, but making it clear that you have an opinion or concerns or whatever is fine. You just have to make sure that you're not telling them what way to vote and that you're showing this is why it's a concern of it. But I will say this, depending on the type of situation, for example, if it's a public hearing, which is different. So a public hearing is different than going and testifying, okay? For example, if they say, hey, we want to know how many people are in for it. If you just start saying like, here's the concern, they will actually just tally, here's how many people were against this change and here's how many were for it. That's one thing, but we also still want to make sure that what we're saying is not a, like, I can't stand it either. If I just get the same things over and over again, I tune it out. So why is it important? I'm sure Julie will share with us some good tips too. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things to share. One of the things I've learned in work, sorry, I look like a mess. It's been a rough week. So one of the things I wanted to share was when we email our legislatures, or if we know of several emails that we want to send out, don't send out group emails. For interns, immediately delete those. Make them personally to your individual legislature. Let them know that you live in their district. If you don't live in their district, make them aware of that, and that's when you make it personal. This is why, even though I don't live in your district, this is what I've experienced, and I'm sure there's things that are going to be experienced in your district as well. And I agree with Suzanne. The personal side of it is very, very important. I think she gave today was really, really important. Having worked on the Capitol Hill now for almost 12 years in different bills, I've done advocacy and I've done lobbying. And it's difficult when you change from lobbying to advocacy. You can still get the same message across, only more powerful. But yeah, that's the one tip I would say. If you're sending out emails, don't send them out in group emails, because what ends up happening, interns get them first. And always, always in your addressing line, you know, the subject line, make sure that you use capital letters with the bill number. Don't leave the bill number off, because if you leave the bill number off, you've got to understand, we've got like, I believe 400 bills right now that have been numbered, and they continue to number them up for another week. And so a lot of times it's really hard for them to read every email. So make sure they understand what you're talking about, whether it's a House bill or a Senate bill. And Suzanne, one of my suggestions to Jen Plum is we don't have a a Senate sponsor for 106, so maybe they could combine.
That is not an option at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's just my 2 cents worth today.
I agree. And thank you. And for those of you who don't know, Julie has been involved in a lot of different things at the state capital and policy. And that's one of the values, again, in the coalition. By having all these different people come together, you never know who's already been experienced with that. And that's one of the things that's a beauty of coalitions. Oh, I'll get emotional. I love coalitions and the efforts that they make. So thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who took the time to be on this call for your hour of your time. If you take time today at 2, thank you. That's you being involved, and even just a little bit is awesome. So you don't have to change the world immediately. We just want to keep trying our very, very best. Okay.
Awesome.
Heidi, anything
Well
else?
said. No, I don't think I could top that. That was awesome. Well, if no one else has any questions, we'll go ahead and end and we'll send this recording out. Thank you so much for being on the call. We had 62 people, which is a record for us. So thank you. Bye, everyone.